Lord of the Rings Warhammer, or the Middle Earth strategy battle game, isn't just one of the greatest games that Games Workshop has or ever will make, it's also one of the primary reasons that wargaming is so popular today. But has its time finally come? Is our beloved game about to come crashing down? And what about here on Zorpazorp? Where is the Middle Earth content? Today we are finally getting some answers, and we're gonna do it in front of Edoras.
Over the past couple of months here at Zorpazorp, I have been deep down the rabbit hole with my Siege of Terror mega build for the Horus Heresy, and it's prompted a whole range of comments from people anxious that I'm leaving Middle Earth behind. And after a lengthy period of delays, disappointments, and mild abandonment, Games Workshop have not only finally dropped a new supplement, but also announced a brand new edition for the Middle Earth strategy battle game tied to the new War of the Rohirrim anime. And with even more Lord of the Rings films on the horizon, we are about to see a huge change in our Middle Earth wargaming landscape.
But is this change going to be for the good of our hobby? Or is this, as some naysayers claim, the beginning of the end, the downward spiral of the greatest thing the Games Workshop has ever touched? Well, today we're going to find out, and we're going to do it in the home of Rohan.
The old sit-down talking head video essay just really isn't the Zorpazorp style, so we're gonna shake things up a little bit, and I've driven out to Mount Sunday, the original filming location for Edoras, the capital of Rohan, and while we unpack these juicy topics, we're going on a little journey.
We begin our physical and ideological journey here in the foothills of Edoras, amongst the barrows of the Mark, and if we just crest that little slope, we'll see our destination. I don't know how King Theoden got up this, man. He was like 1 billion years old. There behind me is the River Snowbourne. God, this is windy. There behind me is the River Snowbourne winding its way down the Vales of Harrowdale, or the River Rangitata winding its way down Erewhon Valley here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Over there, two things lie in wait for us: the future of Lord of the Rings Warhammer and the Helm's Deep filming location. And we're going to take a hike to try and find both.
While I set off across the lower slopes of Edoras, let's first have a chat about why this game has survived for so long. The Lord of the Rings strategy battle game was launched way back in 2001, alongside the release of Peter Jackson's trilogy, and was the brainchild of former Games Workshop giant and prolific wargame designer Rick Priestley, and is almost solely responsible for catapulting Games Workshop into the market-dominating position it has now held for many years. This game was so insanely successful and generated so much capital for Games Workshop in its early years, Rick Priestley himself claims the company went through a period of rapid, messy, and mismanaged growth, which changed the fiscal outlook of the company in the ensuing years. But regardless of the so-called corporate mismanagement of the Middle Earth revenue, there can be no doubt that it wildly succeeded in sweeping up an entire generation of new wargamers. With many wargamers across the world who play Warhammer of one form or another today getting their start with the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, myself included.
In fact, let me know down in the comments below what year you started wargaming and what system it was that drew you in. I'll bet for a whole bunch of you it was the Battle Games in Middle Earth serial magazine.
The Lord of the Rings, battle games in Middle Earth. Relive the battles and adventures of the Fellowship with this tabletop strategy game.
If you'd like more history on the beginnings of our great game, check out this amazing interview my mate Harry from the Battle Games in Middle Earth channel and Entmoot podcast did with Rick Priestley back in 2020. It is a fascinating watch.
Well, without Lord of the Rings, there would be no Warhammer, there would be no fantasy.
Since those early days, the game has gone through its ups and downs, experiencing a brief period of strength and then a huge fall-off after the Hobbit films, with the game going through its darkest days in the mid-2010s, but after a brand new edition launched in 2018, spearheaded by Games Workshop stalwart Adam Troke and his protege Jay Clare, the game had a big resurgence and is now safely in the hands of Jay, who is the lead writer, and Rob Alderman as head of product. But over the last 2 years, a bunch of problems have plagued the game, with huge gaps between releases, no doubt brought on initially by COVID-19, but broader issues have been hinted at. In a live stream last year at Warhammer Fest, a huge release was teased in the lead-up, and then only a small diorama announced, with a whole heap of other announcements being withdrawn from from the preview seemingly last minute, citing some sort of legal issues. These swirling rumors of complex issues at play, combined with the massive gaps in the release schedule, began to manifest in a lot of negative commentary from communities across the world worried for the future of their beloved game.
I'm certainly not going to speculate on any of those issues behind the scenes, but I'm sure the only people more disappointed than us that there have been big gaps between Middle Earth releases are the Middle Earth team themselves. I had the fortune of meeting Rob and Jay when I was in the UK back in 2022, and they're both absolute top lads who have such a vibrant passion for the game. But regardless, Games Workshop has answered all these questions with a monster announcement, a brand new supplement, The Rise of Angmar, and a brand new edition for Lord of the Rings Warhammer tied to the War of the Rohirrim anime. Now, the whole premise of this video was to do a kind of a talking head piece reflecting on these massive developments for our game, but to add a little bit of that Zorpazorp spice and hike out on location from Edoras to Helm's Deep while unpacking all of these big issues. But as you might have noticed, I'm not at Edoras, I am back in the studio. I tried to film this video 2 times, but the weather in the Erewhon Valley is just absolutely savage. Is just, holy shit, that is snow. Oh man, I'm gonna get hypothermia doing this. I got hit in the eye by rain.
Leaning back into the wind right now.
All I managed to get filmed was that intro, so we're gonna continue this journey here in the warmth and comfort of the Zorpazorp studio, and we are going to unpack these incredible developments. And we have 2 new characters in the Lord of the Rings Warhammer story, the Angmar supplement and the brand new edition. Angmar has been out for a few weeks now, and the new edition just got a brand new box set announced with some just incredible developments. But there has been a bit of a mixed reaction to both of these. We're going to unpack all of that, starting off with the Rise of Angmar supplement, because in here are some clues to unlock the mystery of the new edition. One comment I have seen bandied about is that this whole supplement, the Rise of Angmar, and the accompanying model range is kind of like a last-minute cash grab that's been smashed out as a quick sale before the new edition hits and makes this book redundant. It's public knowledge now that Games Workshop's pipeline is sometimes as long as 2 years. Books getting printed, models getting sculpted and then put through the manufacturing process. Games Workshop is a behemoth company. They're not a tiny little kind of one-man operation. It takes them a long time to get stuff prepared. Obviously, this has been coming for a long time, especially when you consider that Middle Earth has the whole added step of license approvals on top of all of the normal production pipeline for stuff like 40K and Sigmar. So obviously that take is pretty flawed, but it falls apart even more when you actually look at the book itself. The Fall of Arnor is like one of my favorite periods of the lore. I actually made like a fan-made supplement and set of Legendary Legions themed around Arnor and Angmar years ago that I used to run at tournaments. It is something that is pretty dear to me, and when you have a look through this book, the scenarios, the legions, it's clear that a lot of love and care has been poured into this. It's not something that has been slapped out quickly. The prices of the models though, oh my lord, you know what, let's not even go there. It's just like a whole new level of expensive, especially here in New Zealand. Obviously miniature prices has nothing to do with our beloved Middle Earth team. It's a, decision made by marketing departments. But in here, in this Rise of Angmar supplement, there is a wonderful little case study on what I think we can glean for the future of our beloved game. Secrets of the new edition are right in the game design of this product. In here, there is a profile for the Shade. Now, longtime players will be well familiar with the Shade. It is an Angmar profile that is widely regarded as the worst profile in the game. It commits 2 games design cardinal sins. It creates an incredibly negative player experience for your opponent, and it takes 0 player agency to use. Absolutely awful to play against. It's just a very, very terrible profile, and I have hated it for a long time. It's been like my biggest pet peeve. But in this book, there is a brand new Shade profile which replaces the old one, and it's basically everything the old Shade was meant to be. Instead of a blanket bubble debuff that just sits in the middle of your army and messes with your opponent with no kind of action or choice of your own, the new Shade profile has a range of choices of things that you can do to boost your own army. It is perfectly kind of capturing that vibe and that thematic essence of the shade of Angmar and bringing that to the tabletop in a way that gives you a player agency and choice, and it interacts with the models around it in a much more meaningful way, and it doesn't create this ridiculously oppressive, negative play experience for your opponent. And I just think it's just such a great sign to see that finally happening, and if that's the kind of direction we're going for the new edition, I mean, I think, look, we're in good hands, right? I'm pretty excited. You have no idea how long I've wanted that shade to be obliterated, and the new shade is gorgeous. So if a lot of love has been put into the Rise of Angmar supplement, it stands to reason that the same kind of love and devotion that we've seen in Middle-earth for a long time is going to be put into the new edition. So let's unpack what we know about it, because there's been a bit of alarm, a bit of mixed reactions around the community. First of all, there is the kind of bigger question of, was it a wise choice to even theme this new edition around the War of the Rohirrim? The only chance at getting this kind of major large-scale investment that the new edition is going to bring from Games Workshop is going to be when there is an external market force like a new film or a new property to kind of inject the hype machine. Games Workshop are going to go, yes, we can afford to invest and spend that money in this system. And the next kind of couple of live-action films, Hunt for Gollum, they are so far away. And our game stands on the edge of a knife, and stray but a little and it will fall. We have been seeing dropping player base and kind of just a general lack of hype around the game because of all of these delayed releases and issues. We needed that big injection of hype to bring a bunch of new players, to bring new blood and excitement to the game, and more than anything, a showing of faith from Games Workshop that they're still massively committed to this system. And I think that is exactly what this new edition is, especially since we have seen the new box set. Now, in saying all of that, I do have one massive caveat that will basically make me backflip on my entire position, which we will circle back around to in just a sec. So what do we actually know about this new edition? Well, the new box set just got revealed, and wow. Plastic troops, ladies and gentlemen. I've been banging on about plastic troops in like videos in 2019, 2020 on this channel. That is a massive landmark moment for the Middle-earth strategy battle game. Views have been tanking here at Zorpazorp a bit lately. We're in a bit of a rut, which means the sponsors have disappeared, at least for the time being. So I'd just like to do a huge shout out instead to my Patreons. You guys are keeping this channel alive. You are the greatest folks, especially if you're a big Middle-earth Patreon. You've been waiting a long time, and I'll unpack the big news a bit later on in this video about all of the new Middle-earth content coming for the new edition, but you've been very patient, so a massive shout out to you guys. Obviously, you probably know about this already though if you're a Patreon, because I've been doing weekly vlogs over on Patreon with heaps of teasers and kind of behind the scenes action on what's happening, as well as the Discord community is just booming. Everyone kind of votes on polls and gives feedback on builds and helps me kind of decide how I'm building things, as well as it's just a great place to hang out for hobby and such as well. It's such an awesome group of people. Not to mention the new Patreon wall, the honor wall, which is behind camera right now, which is being revealed properly in next video. It's this big kind of honor wall with all the Patreons' names and statues for the Megazorptrons, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. Your name inside the Zorpazorp builds, becoming a part of the stupidly massive mega boards. Patreon is the place to do it. If you want to support all the Middle-earth content coming out, go and jump down in Patreon. It means the world. The Patreons literally keep this place alive. Kind of the biggest takeaway and my biggest discussion point around the new edition, which is the new box set and what the new box set means. For so long, we have been owed by Games Workshop. The chip on my shoulder as a Middle-earth player is ginormous. Every other game gets new plastic troops all the time, made with technologies that were bought and sold with the blood and sweat and toil of Middle-earth SBG in the early 2000s. The huge amount of money that we made Games Workshop in that first decade of the current kind of century basically set up all of the cash flow to invest in all the new plastic technology. The reason that there's 1 billion Space Marine sculpts is because we made money for Warhammer 40k in that first decade, and then that funneled into the rest of the company. And now we get nothing. No new plastic warriors. The poor Middle-earth team get nowhere near enough of the support and the sculptors that our game deserves. But it looks like that might be changing. The new box set, for the very first time, has new plastic warriors. We have plastic warriors of Rohan. No more are we using the sculpts from the 2002 starter box. And we have plastic wild men of Dunland. And the kits look absolutely gorgeous. That can't be it. That can't be the only new plastic warriors we get, and then Games Workshop just goes, yep, cool, and if you can all just keep buying all those other 2002 sculpts and we'll just keep printing money, that'd be great. This needs to be the beginning of a new phase of range resets. My kind of hope is, for starters, each of these new kind of launch factions need more support. So we need to see plastic riders for, you can't release just Rohan on foot as your new plastic Rohan. They're a cavalry army. So we need to see some plastic riders, and if that's just it, 2 new plastic frames and then use the old Royal Guard, I'd take that. The Wild Men of Dunland, or this new kind of Dunland sub-hill tribe faction, they're going to need another plastic warrior sprue. And then we really need to see all of those core Lord of the Rings factions get those range refreshers. 2 new plastic warrior frames for Uruk-hai, Minas Tirith, or Isengard, Minas Tirith, Mordor, and of course, our very original factions, High Elves and Numenor, need to be split off this multi-frame nonsense and get, new Elves, new Numenorians, and Moria Goblins as well. Those kind of core factions need big plastic updates. They're the oldest frames, and this might be a contentious comment, but they're probably the most loved factions because they're just the most central. They transport from the films down to the table so beautifully. All those gorgeous scenarios in Quest of the Ringbearer and all of that kind of, everyone wants to play out those movie moments. If only a handful of factions are going to get any Plastic Warrior updates, in my opinion, we got to get those core classic Lord of the Rings faction updates. Hopefully these 2 new warrior sprues are just the beginning, and if that is so, this is a bloody exciting time for Middle Earth. And what a time for Games Workshop to reinvest. Obviously, War of the Rohirrim anime, another 2 movies pushing Lord of the Rings into this kind of big public space, putting it in the kind of mainstream world. I mean, it's the time to invest money if they're going to invest money. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the future of Lord of the Rings Warhammer, to be perfectly honest. I'm very, very excited. Obviously, I kind of have a bit of a horse in this race. Half my whole channel is built around Middle-earth dioramas and crafting and Lord of the Rings Warhammer. So boy, do I want this to be the next big boom. Now that kind of segues into the other part of this essay, the other sort of topic that I wanted to talk about, which is of course what is happening for Middle-earth here on Zorpazorp. Now this year has just been dominated by the Imperial Palace on Terra mega build. I mean, it's just behind camera and it's huge, and there's been a lot of content covering that. In terms of Middle-earth, there's been a couple of Minas Tirith videos and our big, beautiful Greyhavens build here in January, but it's been very light on for Middle-earth. My original plans, if you'd asked me in January, were actually mostly Middle-earth, and because of some stuff I can't talk about, those kind of had to be changed, and those things I was dreaming of doing will hopefully happen in 2025. But because I had this massive gap, because a bunch of stuff got cancelled or delayed, I had to fill it with something, and the Imperial Palace exploded at that time, and so I kind of made a pivot over there. But it was meant to be all Middle-earth. I've moved to Middle-earth to make Middle-earth content, and I haven't been able to make that much. But that is all about to change, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to enter probably the biggest arc of Middle-earth content here on the channel. It's a Rohan movie. It's a Rohan movie. How am I not going to make all the Rohan things? Now, I can't spoil everything that's coming. I genuinely can't because of reasons, but here is a little bit of a taste of what is on the horizon. Some of you guys might remember this time last year, I talked about the second Middle-earth mega board that I wanted to start here in New Zealand being themed around Rohan. Edoras, Helm's Deep, the Fords of Isengard, Orthanc, Fangorn, the Plains of Rohan and the Westfold all joined together in a massive mega board, just like my original Siege of Gondor mega board has Osgiliath joined to the Pelennor, joined to Minas Tirith. We are finally beginning that with this new edition of Lord of the Rings Warhammer and this new Rohan themed movie. And we're going to kick it off with, obviously, the heroes of the new films, Edoras and Helm's Deep. So I'm going to have a mega Helm's Deep build and a couple of Edoras builds covering different parts of the city. Up the top, the kind of royal court and the top of the rocky escarpment where I was talking to you guys at the beginning of this video. And then also the lower regions, the gates and kind of broader areas of the outer palisade wall and the city, and those are going to join together into a super board, which will then eventually join to the Helm's Deep board via some other structures, you know, a Warg attack layout, various Rohan builds. So that is all finally kicking off. I am going hard back into Middle Earth with some huge builds, army videos, painting vlogs. It's gonna be massive. I could not be more excited. And I'm certainly not abandoning the palace. I love the palace, but boy, am I ready for some Middle Earth. It is gonna be cool. There's cool palace stuff coming too, but yeah. We're all here talking about Lord of the Rings, so I'm focusing on that. Especially Helm's Deep. I've built Edoras 2 times already. It would be nice to build kind of the third and final version, much, much better than I've ever built it before. But Helm's Deep, it was the first board I ever wanted to make. It was the first board I ever tried to make when I was 7 years old. And so to finally circle back around after 2.5 decades of crafting experience and professional level resources to come at that and hopefully build something that is like really, really high quality as a diorama, but also amazing to game on. And then of course, all of this is going to be supported by battle reports on the Middle Earth or focused battle report channel, Zorp of the Rings. In case you guys don't know about that, that is my third channel. I have Zorpazorp for main crafting and Zorp of the Rings and Zorphammer for the gaming content. Zorphammer is Warhammer-y, Horus Heresy stuff, and Zorp of the Rings is all about Middle Earth. So I've got heaps of battle reports that are uploading on Zorp of the Rings, big supercuts of old ones from this edition to kind of say goodbye to this edition, and then brand new big siege battle reports, Siege of Edoras, Siege of Helm's Deep, lots of juicy War in Rohan goodness on Zorp of the Rings as well. So if you're keen for battle reports in Middle Earth, go and check out Zorp of the Rings. I'll link it down below. Mash a little subscribe so that you're ready for when all the new games come out. And just buckle up basically, because I've missed Middle Earth and I'm coming back in a big way. All of this was, of course, meant to be announced and revealed to you guys while I'm standing in front of the actual Helm's Deep filming location, but sadly, you have to be in front of my Helm's Deep on the map instead. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm keen for your thoughts. Hey, are you guys pumped for the new edition? Are you excited? What new plastic troops would you guys like to see? What's the ultimate box, and why is it Rivendell High Elves that you need to see done in plastic? And yeah, who's keen? What boards, what parts of Rohan or Middle Earth more broadly would you like me to kind of dive into and add to the mega board next? So jump down in the comments, let me know all that stuff. And I hope you guys are excited about Middle Earth more broadly and Lord of the Rings Warhammer as I am. I think this is an absolutely banging time. I'm so excited for the work, to see the work that the Middle Earth team have put in. I think they've been busting their asses off, and we're finally going to get to have a look at it all, and I am pretty bloody excited. So that's it for now, and strap in, as there is some big stuff coming real soon. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.